Yeah, so I mean, like you were saying, this is your introduction to Nick Cave. It's probably not the most. I mean, in some ways it is. It's an incredibly accurate introduction.
Okay.
But in some ways it isn't, because I mean, like, there's a whole other side to him. Choosing a Nick Cave album for this episode was fucking impossible. Because, like, you know, like in the last episode when you were talking about Beastie Boys and you were talking about how important they are to you and everything, when I was listening to you talk about Beastie Boys, I'm like, yeah, I need to talk about Nick Cave. Because, I mean, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is easily, like, my favorite band.
Okay.
I'm a huge Nick Cave fan. And trying to choose a fucking album, you know, when you love an artist?
Yeah.
Trying to choose an album and, like, that represents them and everything, and also because he has evolved. You know, so his sound when he started and his sound now is different. I mean, you can, you know, the origins are still there, but it's, you know, he's really continued to evolve and grow as an artist. And I chose this one, Murder Ballads, basically because I think in many ways it kind of sums up the stuff that I always sort of liked about him, is that it's like so much darkness but so much beauty at the same time. And if this was just an audio podcast, I might have chosen something else.
Okay.
But because we're showing the videos, I love this video.
No, it's a nice video.
And their chemistry is amazing. I mean, they were a couple at the time, so it's not so it's not surprising that they would have that kind of chemistry. But Murder Ballads is probably their most. I think it is their most successful album, and another huge hit that came out of that was Where the Wild Roses Grow, which was another duet that Nick Cave did with Kylie Minogue. Which is also another very cool song. And here's a funny thing: like, he was nominated for Best Male Artist at the MTV Awards, and he told them to take it away. He told them to withdraw it because he was like, "Look, I think the reason you guys are nominating me is because of the song with Kylie Minogue. That's not a fair representation of the album. That if kids are gonna buy this album expecting more of that, they're gonna be sorely disappointed." Murder Ballads is an amazing album, as the title suggests. They're all songs that in some way or another deal with a murder. Except for the last song, which is a cover of Bob Dylan, Death Is Not the End. So it's...
That concept alone makes me want to check out this album.
It's a fucking amazing album. Like, there's a song in it called Stagger Lee, which is a great song. There's a song in it called The Curse of Millhaven, which is like a sprawling kind of like 8-9 minute epic, which is basically about this girl who's like... you know, like recounting her you know, like how she fucking went and, you know, like all these murders that she has done from the mental asylum where she's currently in.
Okay.
And it's such a long ass song that when I went to see Nick Cave in Brixton, like, people were chanting for it, and he's like, "I want to do it. There's a lot of fucking lyrics. I can't remember everything." So he actually had a guy with like with the manila cards and everything come up there so he could like do the song. And it's a fucking amazing song. Some other like amazing Nick Cave albums is like Let Love In, Your Funeral, My Trial, Henry's Dream, The Boatman's Call. The Boatman's Call is sort of a shift. Like after Murder Ballads, and so up until Murder Ballads, a lot of his signature style, which is kind of like this gothic rock. And I mean, he's always, in all of his albums, he's always had love songs. He's always had very beautiful love songs, very, very cool ballads. But the sort of like the spine of what he did were these very, very hard, like driving kind of like gothic rock songs. And it was after... while kind of like doing Murder Ballads and after Murder Ballads, that when his relationship with PJ Harvey ended, it inspired the next album, which was an album called The Boatman's Call. And The Boatman's Call, he started to veer towards quieter, more piano-based stuff. And the album that he did after that, No More Shall We Part, was kind of like a combination of those things, where you had like this really melodious, beautiful piano stuff, but kind of like surrounded with all of this kind of like very hard driving rock. And that's probably my favorite Nick Cave album, is No More Shall We Part, in the sense that that's the album of his that I think I've listened to the most. But what I've always loved about him, and what kind of like blew my mind as a fan when I was younger, is that the idea that someone could be more than a songwriter Always kind of like, what? You mean he does this too? He does that too? Because he's an author. He's written books. You know, his first book is called "And the Ass Saw the Angel," which was turned into a theater production with puppets. Which was, I never saw it, but I have the soundtrack, and it sounds super fucking cool. It's a crazy ass book. He's wrote another book called The Death of Bunny Monroe, which is also a fucking crazy ass book. He's veered into screenwriting. There's an Australian western called The Proposition with Guy Pearce.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so
He wrote that?
He wrote that.
Oh shit!
He wrote that. He did the soundtrack for it.
Wow.
And so as a young fan, it was very inspiring that someone could aspire to all of these things, that could do all of these things, where it's, you know, he's not just like a recording artist. And his lyrics are so ridiculously poetic. And he even gave like a lecture. He gave a lecture on the love song. He gave a couple of lectures on it, and the the lecture was called fucking. Hang on a second. Wait. Yeah, the lecture was called "The Secret Life of the Love Song: The Flesh Made Word," and there's this quote that I wrote down because of him talking about the love song, which like, you know, because you say I'm very jiwang, right? And you say like I love love songs and all that. It's because of shit like this. So the peculiar magic of the love song, if it has the heart to do it, is that it endures where the object of the song does not. It attaches itself to you, and together you move through time. But it does more than that. For just as it is our task to move forward, to cast off our past, to change and to grow, in order to forgive ourselves and each other, the love song holds within it an eerie intelligence all of its own, to reinvent the past and to dump it at the feet of the present.
Nice. I like that. I like that idea.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense. And he also has like a side project band called Grinder Man, which is also fucking cool. And Grinder Man is definitely like some of the more kind of like hardcore stuff that he's done. Like, you know, like now that he's kind of like getting a little bit older and he's mellowing out, it's like Grinder Man is like when he gets to just rock out. You know, with his fucking porn mustache.
Because the only time I've really heard any Nick Cave, like that I would remember, I'm pretty sure he's been on soundtracks and I didn't notice. You know,
he's probably, I mean, like the other song that he's most famous for is Red Right Hand, which has been in a ton of like horror songs. I mean, horror movies.
So I'm pretty sure I probably heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
But the one where I could see like, oh, this is Nick Cave, was the Martin Scorsese Presents, the blues documentary series he did with other directors. So I think it was, I want to say it's Wim Wenders. I could be wrong. But one of the directors who was doing pieces on Son House, on Skip James and some others. Yeah, he had different people performing their interpretations of their pieces.
Yeah.
So Nick Cave was doing a couple, and it was interesting because it was like, I was trying to figure out the word for it. I was like, is it Americana? Is it roots? And when you say Gothic, like, it's kind of American Gothic.
Like his early albums, you know, they tend to, because they're not just like songs, they're stories. He's very much a storyteller kind of songwriter, and especially like in his earlier albums, a lot of it seemed to take place in this fictional mythical American wasteland. You know, some version of the South that doesn't really exist except in these songs. And even his first book, "And the Ass Saw the Angel," kind of feels like that as well. It's some crazy alternative version of the American like bumfuck South that doesn't exist, but it's just like a weird sort of alternative version of it, where he just pushes everything to the extreme. And it just like, I'd never heard lyrics like that before. I'd never, you know, it's kind of like a modern day Jim Morrison.
I guess.
You know, like in the but taking it even further, because like Jim Morrison was also fascinated with religion. And paganism and Native Americans. And a lot of, and it's interesting that it's like the first half of Nick Cave's career with his lyrics, there's a lot of Old Testament stuff in there. And then in the second half there's more New Testament. So
there's like, you know, so you can tell there's a writer's hand at work here for a whole theme.
You know what I mean? And I had never heard stuff like that before. I was like the first time I heard it was when I was working in that CD shop when I was a kid, and like this guy would bring in like stuff that no one else was bringing in, and the first Nick Cave album I heard was Let Love In, and the first song was Do You Love Me, and I remember like listening to it and thinking, what the fuck is this? You know, this is back in the day when you would sample CDs with the headphones and everything, so you could really listen.
You're just there, like in your own world. Like,
yeah, and he's got such a unique voice. I had never heard a voice like that, and I just remember like going, "What the fuck is?" And the thing is that I wasn't immediately sure if I liked it. It's just one of those things where it was just like I just know I've never heard anything like this before in my life, and it was one of those things where it's like Let Love In. I mean, like there was a couple of songs in there that I love. Red Right Hand is on that album. And then the next album that they did after that was Murder Ballads. And it was one of those things where it's like, Let Love In was an interesting album. It was an interesting album. I'll check out Murder Ballads. And then I heard Murder Ballads, and I'm like, I fucking love Nick Cave. So like that sealed the deal. And then since then, you know, you go back and you listen to the older stuff, and then you listen to Let Love In again and realize, no, this is an amazing album. I was just, you know, you're trying to process this new feeling, you know. And that's something that I genuinely kind of miss, you know, that experience of just sort of like, I don't know what this is. Yeah. But it feels...
When you discover something where it's just like, this is not like anything I've heard yet.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know how I feel about this, but this kind of feels important. You know?
I love that, like the second you said Gothic, it really fucking tied it into me. Like, that's the best way to describe it, like American Gothic, because just hearing that, like lyrics aside, just the sound of it, like in my head is, you know, like Johnny Cash's last album with Trent Reznor, you know.
And Johnny Cash covered Nick Cave. He covered Nick Cave's song "The Mercy Seat," which is an incredible fucking song.
And like flashes of True Detective season 1. Like it feels like that world, like that True Detective world of like, where is this weird place down south that obviously no one else goes to?
Nick Cave works a lot with the director Andrew Dominik, the Australian director, the guy who directed.
Is he American or Australian?
Australian. Who? Nick Cave.
Nick Cave.
Australian. He's from Melbourne.
And yet it's such an American sound.
Yeah. It's very, very much so.
Yeah. But I also realized, like, I noticed like certain regions.
But he moved out of Australia. So he moved from Australia. He moved to London, and he had the band The Birthday Party. So like he started with The Birthday Party, and then The Birthday Party broke up. And I think like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, like the Bad Seeds, if I'm not mistaken, the birth of it was in Germany, in Berlin.
Wow.
So I think Birthday Party broke up when they moved to Berlin, and then that's when he hooked up with Blixer Bargel. And Blixer Bargel's no longer with Bad Seeds, but he was one of the original core members and played with them like for fucking years. So the other core members like Mick Harvey, Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis is the one that he still like collaborates with the most.
That's the name that I find the most hilarious, because whenever I'm trying to look up, because Warren Ellis, the author, is one of my favorite comic book writer of all time. And then sometimes you forget, like, oh, he plays bass too? Wait, no, that's not him.
Different guy.
Fuck.
Different guy. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, like, this is just like scratching the surface.
Because he's been around a while.
He's been around a long time. I think like they've got like 17 albums.
Damn.
And they're all great in their own way, and they all sort of like represent a different aspect of him and his life, and his life has been, you know, like there's been a lot of tragedy. Like his 15-year-old son like took LSD and fell off a cliff.
Oh shit.
And since then his music has become a little bit more abstract, as he's kind of been exploring it. There's a YouTube video where I think Benedict Cumberbatch reads a letter that
a live letter session.
Session, and Benedict Cumberbatch reads a letter from Nick Cave where he talks about grief.
Oof.
And you know, because it's Nick Cave, it's just so beautifully worded. It breaks your heart. So yeah, I mean, like if you liked this is I would say that this song is definitely on the gentler side. If you like this kind of style and you don't want to have like the culture shock of the hardcore Nick Cave, I would say check out Boatman's Call. And check out No More Shall We Part. And then if you like that, go back and check out Let Love In, check out The Good Son, check out Your Funeral, My Trial. Yeah, I mean, if you like more electronic stuff, check out his newer stuff like Ghosteen, the latest one. Yeah, it's
So it's safe to say that Nick Cave is someone that you would wear a T-shirt of.
I would, and I have. And also, hands down, the best live act I've seen.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I've seen him twice. Both times were fucking incredible.
Nice.
But yeah, what have you got?
Bit of an opposite, and I didn't realize the music video because the song's only about 2.5 minutes, but it's one of those long videos with intros and endings.
Right.
But this is Real Big Fish. She has a girlfriend now.